think. So it's like,
Good morning. It is 8 a.m. on Tuesday, December 12th, 2023. We will call the Economic Development Authority meeting for the City of New Ulm to order. Item number 1 is the roll call. We do have a quorum present. At this time, we'll move on to item number 2, approval of the minutes from our November 14th meeting.
I'll offer a motion to approve those.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion does carry. Item number 3.1, Administrative Activities Report for November of 2023.
Right. Good morning, President Betker and Commissioners. I just have one item to highlight this month. Under the Homebuyer Assistance Loan Program, one application was received during the month of November.
Thank you.
I had no further questions on that. I would move to accept the Economic Development Authority administrative activities for the month of November 2023.
I'll second that.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4.1, Public Housing Utility Allowance Schedules.
All right. This is another one of those annual items. HUD requires us to review our utility allowance schedules on an annual basis. This is for the public housing program. So this is for Broadway House apartments as well as our 10 scattered site family unit rental houses. Residents in the family unit houses are responsible to pay all of their utilities, while residents of Broadway House apartments are only responsible for their electric bill. In order for us to determine the average utility costs that residents pay, we review the utility usage for the prior year to calculate the average usage. We use the current utility rates to determine the utility allowance schedules, and the tenant's rent is reduced according to their utility allowance schedule in order to assist them in paying their monthly utility bill. There are many factors that can vary from year to year, such as our current tenant mix and their utility usage, utility rates, as well as degree days based on the weather from the prior year. So these factors can result in utility allowances increasing or decreasing accordingly. You can see the current utility allowance schedules along with the proposed schedules that would be effective March 1st, 2024. For Broadway House, the one-bedroom utility allowance stayed the same at $32. The two-bedroom shows an increase from $57 to $71. The only thing I can attribute that to, we only have two-bedroom apartments in the building, so the current tenant mix must use a lot of electricity. So we're seeing a little bit of an uptick in the electric usage with more people having computers and devices. So in the family units, the two-bedroom utility allowance increased a little bit from $118 to $133. In the three-bedroom, it actually went down slightly from $184 to $177. And the four-bedroom also decreased from $241 to $201. Again, I can only attribute that to usage. Where some go up and some go down, that would indicate usage versus degree days or other factors. So,
How many four-bedroom do we have?
we have two.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if this question's for you or for Chris. You know, the city passed storm utility fee for next year. Does that interplay here at all, or should it?
I don't
That
believe
will
so.
only be on your house account bill. It won't be. Well, it will be on each of the houses. It will be on their bill. So
We
the
don't need
extra
to worry about it here.
$325 a
Like
month.
each person won't have that $350.
Each tenant in Broadway House won't have it.
Okay. All
Only
right.
people who pay water or sewer will have it.
All right, I just want to double check that. I'll offer a motion to adopt the revised public housing utility allowance schedules for effective March 1st, 2024.
Second?
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. Item number 4.2, the Public Housing Solar Project.
All right, we're bringing this item back to you. Last month, it came to our attention that we were over the dollar threshold that per state statute, we had to go out for sealed bids. So we did advertise and solicit sealed bids for the project. 2 bids were received. One from Wolf River Electric, which was the quote we had received last month. Their cost did not change. They submitted the same numbers, $319,695. Zinno Electric presented a bid, and their bid was no bid, and they requested that we be more specific in our bid documents and go out and rebid the project. In talking with the city engineer, city attorney, city manager, we all agreed that we followed the state statute requirements, and we did not see the need to go out and rebid the project.
Thank you, Heather.
Well, I know we were all supportive last month on this project and would like to see it keep moving, so I'm going to go ahead and offer the motion to award the bid for public housing solar panel project to Wolf River Electric, amount of $319,695.
Second.
Yep.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Does this just keep them on the same timeline then? They'll be able to start pretty soon with that?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Those in favor signal by saying aye. Opposed? That motion does carry. Item number 4.3, the EDA December 12th claims list.
I reviewed it. I have no questions. I move to approve the EDA December special claims list.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Opposed? That motion also carries. Item number 5.1, the service agreement with Wendy Anderson.
All right. So the EDA has had an agreement with Wendy Anderson since February 2022 to provide support for new and existing businesses. The new agreement would cover the upcoming calendar year, 2024. She is not requesting an increase in pay, so it's the same cost as the current year. Her contract includes 3 training sessions, in-house client meetings twice a month here at City Hall, as well as follow-up consults and travel time. The cost would be $36,000, and that's paid monthly.
Well, considering she didn't ask for an increase, we better hurry up and approve this before she changes her mind. So I'm going to authorize the city manager to execute an agreement with Wendy Anderson, amount of $36,000.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
I have personally used Wendy, and I appreciate the input and the thought that she brought into the process of what my husband and I were considering. And I also appreciate that you are bringing the metrics that we asked for. That is helpful to me as well.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Moving on to item 6.1, funds transfer from Garden Terrace to the EDA.
Commissioners, as you know, the Westridge Place was bought and remodeled this year. A lot of that, or all of that, has been carried by Fund 260 or by the EDA. That cost has been. So that account or that fund that we have set up for Westridge Place is extremely negative right now until we get more donations or other grants or whatever for financing. For the end of the year, I need that account to be in the black for audit purposes. So I'm asking for this transfer from Garden Terrace to come over and bring that account into the black for the end of the year. And then if we choose to next year, we can either move those funds back to Garden Terrace or we can keep them in the EDA to use for programs or other things there.
I will offer the resolution to transfer $425,000 from the Garden Terrace Fund to the EDA Fund.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Director Briegel, please call the roll.
Commissioner Berg?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalk?
Yes.
Commissioner Markgraf?
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz?
Yes.
Commissioner Henn?
Yes.
President Becker?
Yes, that motion carries. Item number 6.2, the 2023 audited financial reports.
Commissioners, this is the annual report from the audit that was received. We had the audit was completed in August, September, for the year ending July 30th, 2023. I will go through this fairly quickly. The information doesn't change a lot from year to year, even though we have used a little bit of our cash in the last year. This first slide is just a brief overview. I think this is the first time we presented it was last year, just giving you an idea of the separate funds that are within the EDA or within the housing. So you can see the different funds and what their responsibilities are. Brief highlight, overall, our unrestricted net position did drop by $203,000, and the cash investments went down quite a bit. Most of that is related to Westridge Place and the cost of that building. And then looking at just the business type operations, so looking at Garden Terrace and some of the other rentals, revenue went up $74,000 and expenses basically did not change for the year. Overall net position, you can see basically stayed the same across this. This includes all funds together, so that's good. They're all supporting each other. Where one may fall short, the other ones are picking up that difference. Just presenting that net position a little bit differently again. You can see which funds contribute to the portions of net position. Market rate, obviously, which is Garden Terrace, is the largest portion of our net position. And then the governmental funds, which is 260, or who paid for Westridge, is the second largest portion of our net position. Cash and investments by fund, you can see where the cash went down, and you can see, and this slide will show you that between the market rate and the public housing, that's where the largest portions of our cash sit and are available for use. Revenues were up overall. I believe that was just due to slight rent increases, so nothing major there. Expenses overall were up. That mostly was Westridge, again, that was in 260 or the EDA fund. Within the governmental activities, so Fund 260, you can see the revenues were down, expenses were up quite a bit, and then the net position changed favorably. It was increased a little bit over the year. Public and Indian housing, which would be, if I remember right, Broadway House and some of the other rentals, the revenues were up. You can see where the HUD grants have a small effect in that account or in that fund. Expenses were down a little bit, and net position increased by about $80,000. Section 8 funds were pretty stable. The revenue increased by $40,000. Expenses were also up, but they were up less than, or about $17,000, and so the net position did also increase within that fund as well. Market rate housing, you can see where the revenues increased, the expenses went down $149,000. Those expenses also included that transfer to EDA, so for their expenses to go down, even with that large transfer, was good. But their net position then did go down with that cash switch or transfer. And looking at the rental properties, this is a small portion of the total, but the revenues increased, the expenses increased about the same, and the net position increased slightly as well. Then the capital assets, you'll see the changes here within the building fund. Usually we just see a small decrease every year for depreciation, but we acquired that building, and then the construction in progress affected that balance as well. So our buildings are up and everything else is pretty stable. Basically, out of all of this, it's hard to present this information there's so many different funds and they all do different things. Looking into the future, we have the option of having Abdo come and explain this a little bit differently if that's something that you're interested in, that would be included with our audit. Or I can keep doing this, or, I mean, the financials are attached as well. So if you have, you can review those, and if you have other questions, I'm always available to answer those questions if you have them now or whenever. But basically, coming out of the audit, it was a good audit. We had an unmodified opinion, no instances of noncompliance, and no deficiencies in internal controls, which is really the ultimate result we're looking for out of that. So that's all I have on that.
All right, thanks, Nicole. I just had one question. If you go back to, I think, slide 14, the land prices stayed the same for 3 years. I'm just curious why that.
Land doesn't, once you book it, unless you put more money into it, it doesn't really increase in value as far as the audit goes.
Okay.
And it doesn't depreciate. So it just holds that value that you paid for it when you
Until you
acquired
go
it.
to sell it. Okay.
Yep.
That makes sense.
I'll offer a motion to receive and order file the 2023 audited annual financial report.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion does carry. Item number 6.3 is Westridge Place donations.
I'll offer the resolution accepting donations to Westridge Place for the period of November 2023.
I second that.
We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion?
Usually we read those into the record. You want to do that?
I can- go ahead, Michelle.
$150 from the Wellness Collective, New Ulm, and $1,000 from Minnesota Valley Testing Laboratories. Thank you both.
Yes, thank you. Director Bregel, please call the roll.
Commissioner Berg. Yes. Commissioner Kalk.
Yes.
Commissioner Markgraf.
Yes.
Commissioner Schultz.
Yes.
Commissioner Henn.
Yes.
President Bedker.
Yes, that motion carries. Item number 7.1 is the Economic Development Activity Report for November 2023.
Get it to come up.
Looks like not much was going on.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't get it to pull up for me for some reason. Might have to get yours.
Yeah.
Sorry. The staff report. Yeah, actually there wasn't
Rural
much
children-
going on. The biggest news is Westridge Place is open. 3 providers are operating. The 4th is intending to sign her lease in hopefully this week. She's just waiting on her insurance.
You talk about that a little more? How many kids are there and how are they doing?
Well, each provider can care for up to 12 children, and the 3 that are operating, I believe, are all full, so that would be 36 children. And then the 4th, when she comes online, that'll be another 12, so 48 total.
She's downstairs?
Which one?
Or she's in the lower, the one who has not signed the contract?
She's upstairs.
She'll be upstairs.
So the 3 that are operating have been very positive about the facility. They're very happy with it. They said the kiddos are enjoying the outdoor space. So, yeah.
Great.
We got a ribbon cutting on Thursday.
Friday at 1:30. You should have all received the invitation for that, and the weather looks much more favorable than the Highway 14 ribbon cutting weather. I think it's going to be 47 degrees. So those that were there know what I mean.
Oh, yes. Looks good. I'm looking for a motion to accept.
I'll make a motion to accept the activity report.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second to accept the November EDA activity report. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Opposed? That motion does carry. Item 8.1, a Newburgh report. Mr. Wessel.
Good morning. Happy holidays. I submitted to Heather per the request of the EDA to come up with goals and objectives for 2024. And I understand that I'm supposed to submit a report before the end of the year on our activities, and I will get that in the hands of the EDA before the end of the year. But if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Otherwise, I think the goals and objectives are pretty clear. But if you need any further clarity on them, I'm more than happy to talk about them.
How's the process with the building potential or land donation? Can you give us an update on that?
I can. I've been working tirelessly on putting financial modeling together. I can tell you that it continues to move forward. It's at the final decision spot up at corporate, and I wish I could tell you when. We are hopeful that we have an answer by the end of the year.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, thanks.
Paul, I did have a question. One of the things that you guys were exploring with that 3M land donation was some solar, correct? Okay. So one of the things that I've been learning, and again, I am not a scientist, I am not an expert, but making sure that the solar that we have is supported by the grid. And I wanted to ask if you guys are working with the PUC to make sure that if we do that, that there might be some upgrades involved that wouldn't be the responsibility of the PUC.
Yeah, that's a good question. There are actually two approaches. One is called the energy buyback approach, and the other is called the behind-the-meter approach. The behind-the-meter approach is an integrated strategy where you take the power from the solar farm and plug it right into, in this case, it could be 3M's thing. By taking that strategy, there are more tax incentives and carbon credits available, and it doesn't put the onus on New Ulm PUC to try to find a buyer for the excess energy.
Correct. And then I'm just in regards to the grid support for that incoming energy.
Yeah, I've had discussions with them. They've given me some guidance as to what substation things will be tied into and all that.
Okay.
I would also say, though, too, that if you guys are entertaining putting up your own solar thing, we should work together to leverage quantity purchases, engineering services, and different things like that to reduce our overall costs. And I've done a fair amount of work in this area, so whatever I can do to help there, I think that would be a great way of moving forward.
Yes, good benefit. All right.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Perfect. Thank
Yep.
you. Without a report submitted, or do you have a report, Heather, that we are receiving? Or, okay, so we had a verbal report. I will look for a motion to receive that verbal report with.
So moved.
Thank you. We do have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion does carry. And with no additional business this morning, this meeting is adjourned.
All right.
And then we have a work session, it looks like. Yeah.